It was a warm, breezy afternoon in August 1983 in Sheridan, Colorado, a sleepy suburb nestled against the foothills of the Rockies, when Richard Poland stepped out into his modest front yard. The sun hung lazily in the sky, casting a golden glow across the lawn where his 3-year-old daughter, Lori, was laughing and spinning in carefree circles. Her tiny bare feet danced across the grass, her blonde curls bouncing with every movement. Her giggle echoed down the quiet street, a sound that seemed to wrap the world in safety. Richard, thinking of how to make the day even more special, turned to head into the house to grab a pair of popsicles. He glanced back through the window once, just once, to check on Lori, and in that fleeting moment, his life changed forever. A pale, nondescript sedan came screeching to a halt in front of their house. Before Richard could process what he was seeing, a man leapt from the car. In a blur, Lori's tiny frame was scooped up, her cries slicing through the air, and slammed into the back seat. The door shut. The car tore off. By the time Richard stumbled into the street, barefoot and shouting, it was already too late. The horror hit like a gut punch. Panic swept through the neighborhood as local law enforcement descended on the Poland home. Officers cordoned off the area, questioned neighbors, and brought in dogs to trace Lori's scent. The community was stunned. Sheridan was a place where doors were rarely locked and kids played until dusk. Now, parents clung to their children, windows were bolted, and whispers of a predator swept like wildfire. News outlets dubbed the mysterious kidnapper the Candyman, based on a chilling rumor. Children spoke of a man handing out candy from his car in the days leading up to the abduction. The nickname, seemingly innocuous, carried dark undertones. He had stalked the neighborhood, he had watched, and now he had taken a child. But in the face of terror, the town came together. Neighborhood children, Lori's playmates, formed their own search squads. They combed through alleyways, peered under porches, and reported anything suspicious. A boy named Tommy even kept a notebook, scribbling down license plates and descriptions of cars he didn't recognize. They were just kids, but in their own way, they were fighting to bring their friend home. Meanwhile, Lori was enduring a horror too chilling for imagination. She awoke in pitch darkness. Her tiny body ached. The air was thick with rot. She was confined in a narrow, cold chamber, metal and concrete surrounding her. First she screamed. She pounded on the walls until her fists bled. But her cries were swallowed by the earth. The man had buried her. 10 feet underground in a remote mountain area near Evergreen, Colorado, Lori was trapped in an old, abandoned cesspool. The kidnapper had left her there to die. The lid was sealed with a heavy slab of metal, and only a small ventilation pipe connected her to the outside world. She was alone, frightened, and she began to sing. She sang lullabies her mother used to hum at bedtime. She recited nursery rhymes. She talked to herself, repeating her name, her parents' names, clinging to anything that kept her identity alive. Bugs and rats crawled over her. She drank the condensation off the walls. For over 72 hours, Lori clung to life in the pitch-black tomb. Back in Sheridan, law enforcement had called in the FBI. Agent Colleen Rowe, a behavioral analyst, began to study the case. The abduction was methodical, quick, calculated. This wasn't a crime of impulse. The perpetrator had scouted Lori. He likely lived nearby. He probably had a history of deviant behavior. And most disturbingly, they feared he would strike again. Then came a fragile thread of hope. A woman in Evergreen called in a tip. She had seen a man behaving oddly at a payphone days earlier. Nervous, sweaty, with a child in the car. When she approached, he peeled out. She thought it was strange, but hadn't reported it at the time. Now, with Lori's case in the headlines, she couldn't shake the memory. Investigators flooded the Evergreen area. They canvassed every road, every wooded turnoff. It was a shot in the dark. On the morning of August 26th, just over 3 days after Lori vanished, a telephone repairman named Charlie McCormick was walking along a narrow service trail when he heard it. A faint sound, almost like wind whistling through a pipe. Then again, voice, high pitch, weak. Help, we're here, please. Charlie Charlie froze. He got down on the ground, pressed his ear to the soil. The voice was real. "My name is Lori," it said. Authorities were called immediately. A rescue team arrived within minutes. They found the ventilation pipe and began to dig, breaking through hardened earth and the concrete lid of the cesspool. Time was critical. Lori's voice was growing weaker. When the rescuers finally broke through, what they found shocked them. A filthy, shaking, dehydrated little girl clinging to life by sheer force of will. News cameras captured the moment Lori was pulled from the pit. America watched in awe. She had survived one of the most horrific child abduction attempts in history. Doctors at Denver Children's Hospital were astonished by her condition. Despite severe dehydration, exposure, and trauma, Lori was conscious. Her body bore scratches, bruises, and insect bites, but she was alive. Her survival was dubbed miraculous. But the work wasn't done. The monster who had done this was still out there. With the help of child psychologists, Lori gave a remarkably detailed description. She remembered the man's smell, the loud music in his car, the way he smoked. She even mimicked his voice. A forensic sketch was created and released to the public. For months, leads trickled in. The FBI followed each one. Then, in 1984, almost a year later, they caught a break. Robert Paul Tall was arrested in connection with unrelated child abuse charges in another Colorado town. During questioning, he made a passing remark about "that girl in the hole." Investigators leaned in. Over the next few days, he confessed in full. He had chosen Lori because she was alone. He had stalked her house for days. He'd buried her alive, assuming nature would silence her. But she had outlasted him. The trial was agonizing. Toll showed little remorse. The jury listened to the details with disbelief. Lori sat in the courtroom with her family, now 6 years old, drawing quietly with crayons while attorneys described how she had been left to die in a concrete tomb. Toll was convicted of kidnapping, attempted murder, and sexual assault. He was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. But Lori's story didn't end there. She struggled. There were years of nightmares, therapy, and fear of small spaces. But with the support of her family, she slowly began to heal. She returned to school. She began speaking to other children about safety. She became a symbol, not of victimhood, but of incredible resilience. In adulthood, Lori pursued a career in therapy, specializing in trauma recovery. She co-founded the National Foundation to End Child Abuse and Neglect, NCAN, helping survivors across the country. She often says, "The monster didn't get to write my ending. I did." Her story stands as a haunting, yet hopeful reminder of what children can endure, what communities can overcome, and how even in the darkest places, a voice can rise from the earth and be heard. Lori Poland survived not just a kidnapping, but a burial. She came back from a pit where most would have been forgotten. And she has spent her life making sure no child ever feels buried again.